Welcome to Industry Legends with your host, Simon Acers. Simon sits down with Renee Mascari, former CEO of the National Training Group and a driving force behind Pass Me the Baton for the Furniture Makers Company in London. From growing up on construction sites in Africa to shaping the future of kitchen and interior design education in the UK, Ren shares a lifetime of passion for design, teaching, and raising professional standards in our industry. This episode is proudly sponsored by All Electric Northants, specialists in domestic repair services, supporting homes across Northamptonshire and beyond. Get ready for a conversation about where kitchens are headed, why education is the missing link, and how we can inspire the next generation of designers and installers.
Welcome to this very special edition of Legends with myself, Simon Acers, and Renee Mascari. So welcome, Ren. The most important factor of today's conversation is about relaying smart generic information back to the industry. And Ren has been passionate, and that's the right word, Ren, all your life about learning and development and doing the right thing for the future. Ren was the former CEO of the NTD National Training Group, and also Ren passed me the baton for the Furniture Makers Company in London, which is a charity built around excellence and education, to fly the flag, I guess, for kitchen furniture. Ren.
Absolutely.
Before we start with some great questions today, can I just ask you, in a paragraph, why did you decide to get into design?
Well, I'm going to go back a little further than 1970, just in a flash. I grew up in Africa, and my father was an electrical engineer and then went on to build houses. So really, from a child, I used to spend a lot of time with him on site. I was excited about development. So I think really design started a long time ago. So by the time I got to 18, 19, 20, I realised I was really passionate about design, and it seemed the obvious way to go. Ideally, I dreamt of becoming an architect. That was my biggest dream.
So structural.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, based on my background. But we travelled too much. We moved houses, we moved countries. We obviously emigrated to the UK. It was impossible to follow that path. And so I studied interior design, which, but I like the architectural side of interior design, rather more than cushions and curtains and colours. I like the technical side of that. And certainly, so far as kitchens and bedrooms and baths, but specifically kitchens, to me it's a very architectural product. So that's how I got into it. I think so far as the teaching is concerned, and what I learned really from a young girl, was that anything technical, as like a kitchen, it's not just form and function, it's not just about looking fantastic. It actually has to work, and we have live surfaces to deal with. So we've got electricity, water, gas, and really you can't just, CAD makes it easy to just transfer pretty pictures and visuals. The biggest job is making sure that once you've sold it, the kitchen or whichever part you're using, that's fantastic, but it has to work mechanically and safely and be compliant.
And of course, there's much talk about in the trade press currently about the kitchen of the future and what that might look like.
Exactly.
And of course, that's always been talked about. We still come back to, in most cases, the working triangle to a degree. Where do you think the kitchen of the future might be headed?
It's a subject I'm passionately interested about, and I think this is a discussion the editor of the Designerati magazine and I have constantly. It's growing at such a pace that how can we possibly not wish to keep up? Can only do that through education. Kitchen design going back to the 70s and 80s or 90s was a lot simpler than it is now. We're creating complicated designs. So, you need to understand how to survey a room or a space, and then ergonomically make sure that everything you put in it works. And open living spaces has created a whole new dynamic in design and ergonomics.
The government has said they want to build 1.5 million houses in the next 5 years. Where should the industry collectively be thinking about now, making that change to support that growth of building?
Well, in the first instance, Simon, as you know, I worked with industry leaders to develop the foundation degree course in kitchen design, which is currently not available, but in that format. Bucks New University delivered that.
There's a coming alternative very shortly.
Yeah, I know, exactly. We can talk about that. That's why I'm saying that. My biggest disappointment when we launched that was that we were obviously the benefit of distant learning, they call it blended learning now, is great because it doesn't mean you have to attend a university, especially if there's not a choice of every university. Because it was a blended learning course, they were not able to advertise it or submit it to the UCAS to be promoted to schools and colleges. And I think that's the big link we're missing, because we are fairly good at promoting our training and education programs to industry, but really we need new blood into the industry. So years ago, I was invited to talk to some schools about our industry, and it makes you realise that they've never heard that there could be a kitchen designer or an installer.
Whose responsibility is it in the industry to communicate to our industry in particular what the options are?
Well, in the first instance, you do a great job, Simon. You and your team are great at promoting education. I've worked with the KBSA for years, and they always supported the NTG, and they're and a lot of industry leaders. So we had a lot of support. Sadly, what we never had was enough finance behind it.
Do you know the finance is very, very important, which we'll come back onto. But the biggest thing for me, Ren, is that there's an interest from a small SME, or let's say an independent merchant, or an independent kitchen retailer or bathroom retailer. They want to hire an apprentice, they think they do. The most important issue to get over, which is the first objection, is I haven't got time. And then the second thing is I don't know how to do it. One of the things, Ren, that I kind of thought about, which I'd love to hear your views on, is it sort of goes back to the old-fashioned days where it's a face-to-face conversation, because you can send someone a link or you can say, have a look at this website, but nothing beats a conversation. So maybe government, this is my suggestion to ask your advice on, maybe my suggestion could be, could government consider by sector having somebody that's like boots on the ground almost, that could go in to see somebody that would be interested, to handhold them and talk them through the process, because by that way I believe there's going to be a higher success rate. There's a cost attached to doing that, of course.
Well, I think government need to invest and actually talk to industries and different industries, because each industry has a criteria of how they work. With regards to the installation apprenticeship, that was launched a long time ago. We did a lot of work successfully, got it approved, but it proved to be difficult with independent installers because the criteria didn't meet with their needs, and so we've struggled to make it successful. So I think that's where government need to understand how an industry works and work with us so that we can not just have it approved, but that we can make sure that we can get it out. And I totally agree when it comes to understanding how the process works. I agree with you, Simon. There's nothing better than somebody going around and explaining it to you.
I guess talking about, you started design 1970 was your first design position, so you've got a lot of experience. But I guess if we look back then, when I was talking to Richard Flower a few weeks ago from Ashford, and Richard has said that that people went to a specialist because then in the 70s the kitchen was becoming more technical, and the builders merchants at that time and some of the builders themselves couldn't get their heads around the technicality of it. But it's the same for, as you say, for a kitchen installer. So if somebody wants to hire an apprentice in the 1970s, because most of the installers are on the books of the independent retailers, that could be controlled. Of course now most people are subcontract. It's more difficult to say to a subcontract installer, we'd like you to take on an apprentice, because who's going to pay for it?
Yeah.
So I guess talking solutions, is there perhaps any solutions realm where, I don't know whether the government could do some kind of incentive for exactly that point, because ultimately if you're building a house, that house still needs a fitted bathroom and a fitted kitchen.
Of course they do, absolutely. And I think if you go back to the 70s and 80s and probably into the 90s, it was often a case of just replacing a kitchen. So, you would take out what's there and put back maybe a different colour, maybe a different material, but you would perhaps just reconnect the sink and whereas now, as kitchen designers and installers, we're now creating we're shifting
new spaces.
The kitchen from the kitchen, knocking down walls. We therefore have to understand our skill level has to be much higher than a good cabinet maker in the 70s could do a great job. Now, we've got a much higher degree of skill required. Of course,
and let's say the kitchen sink's in the same old location under the window it's always been. Now potentially an island unit, whatever it might be. So the skills around the service being from here to here are very, very different potentially. So what on the back of that, what do you think that government or whoever can do it could be, we might say it's down to the independent retailer, but what can we do to incentivise or to encourage installers to hire an apprentice and transfer those skill sets?
That's a difficult question, really, because I suppose, Simon, it comes down to resources, and resources are stretched in government, as we know, along with everything else. So whilst ever the initiative of building thousands more houses and properties is a great one, but that's only half the story. We've got to actually make sure we have the skills, and I think they need to understand it's not just about saying, well, it's an apprenticeship. The responsibility of an independent contractor taking on an apprentice is quite onerous, because they've got to have, as I understand, they have to have all their tools and everything pack tested. There are health and safety issues when you take on an apprentice. Times they start and finish, and so these are sort of areas that put the small independent off. They're almost slightly frightened of it. They know it's going to benefit in the long term, but it seems quite an onerous task.
Going back to the funding we said we'd come back to, so let's say that the government have got £100 to spend on that sector to invest in learning and development. So I guess though you could argue maybe it's how you spend that £100. How could the levy fund or additional funding be proportioned in the appropriate way to get the objective?
Well, I think it's an age-old problem, because even the amazing foundation degree course, which actually I was just overwhelmed. I was so happy when that was finally recognised as a profession rather than just a job you fell into. It needs take up. So a lot of time. You and I have both been involved in the process. It takes a lot of time to develop any degree, any apprenticeship, any qualifications. But if it's no college or university will keep it running, unless there is the take-up. And
Well, while we're on that subject now, so we're aware, because we've been involved in the delivery, there's a new level 6 home fitted interiors to be reviewed, on which it's going to be finally called, but there's a new standard that has been approved. But as you rightly say, it's having the college or the university that's available to train the skills on is the next challenge, I guess. But there goes back to, it's down to industry collectively together to rally together and work together to deliver that professionalisation and raise the standard, isn't it?
Well, and as I said earlier, I think come up with a way to promote it to school leavers as a career option.
Yes.
I mean, I think that's been something we've been very poor at doing. And so when I headed up the NTG, had I had more financial resources at the time, we would be able to have put somebody on a face-to-face level, which I agree
I love that.
is the best way of going around to schools and colleges and saying, look, this is a career. You know how well paid a good job done can be in our industry.
Of course, I mean, going back to the schools and the colleges, I mean, we have been into 2 local schools to talk about the variety of careers in our sector. But almost maybe, Ren, what do you think about if there was some kind of industry pledge that said, if you're a small business, that you agree to visit even one school or college in a year even? I know everybody's busy, but if it was just one visit to discuss the opportunities, think how that would transform the awareness in what we're doing in construction, in kitchens and bathrooms and builders' merchants.
Well, can I give you an example? Some years ago, again, when I was a CEO, the government had a 14 to 16-year-old diploma initiative, and I went in and spoke to a local school in Nottingham, and that over 2 years, I think, as I recall, and we got on average 10 apprentices right up, because it was
what, from one school or from multiple?
No, this was from one school. And we got Webb's training in Beeston.
Yes, Nottingham.
Who took on the apprentices, and I mean that was fantastic.
How many visits to that school had you had to do to get those 10 inquiries?
Oh, I think I did probably 4. That's all. I mean, even
there you have it. Though you give a great solution.
Even from the first visit, I had and actually this was quite a difficult school, as I recall, but I presented something I think quite exciting to them, and they had no idea.
They had no concept of it.
No, that there was even a career opportunity. And so one of the girls, in 1 year, I think there were 10 apprentices and one was a girl, and actually she won the, I'm just saying, she won the Apprentice of the Year that year. So, and there was living proof.
And what about work experience? I've seen less and less small employers taking someone as a work experience, where a long time ago, we won't go back to the exactly, but a long time ago when I was at school, it was like a prerequisite that's what you did. You chose a couple of local employers from a list, and in you went for a couple of weeks. What do you think about, can we do more of that?
I mean, that would be a great idea. What I would say, just as slight reservation to that, is that as we know that most of the independent retailers are often just families. We have our own business, as you know, we have our own kitchen studio. We're just a small family business. It's very hard when you are so low on numbers to take on the responsibility of someone else. So I think that possibly the intention is there, but in reality, Simon, how I struggle to get people away from their businesses for 2 days to come on my design course, when really I would like it to be at least a 5-day course.
The time factor and the resource.
Exactly. It's restrictive.
Yeah, I guess within our sector there'll be some companies that have, let's say, more people at work at any one time that could look after potentially more work experience. But I think maybe even that could be formalised. I mean, we did this KUKA apprentice swap not so long ago, where we had a couple of our apprentices went to Manchester and 4 came down from KUKA. That was really, really beneficial. We'd like to, encourage the industry, I guess, to take up that more so too.
I think, at the risk of getting shot down in flames here, the major, bigger retailers who probably are better resourced could certainly consider that. So, and wherever you enter your career in either kitchen design or installation, it's opening a new door for you, isn't it? So you don't necessarily have to go straight to an independent, because there are a lot of major retailers that offer whether it's even in-house training. The one thing that has always baffled me and still baffles me to this day is how if you want to be a hairdresser, you have to take an apprenticeship. You want to be a car mechanic, an apprenticeship, an electrician, and I could list them off. But somehow when you want to be a kitchen designer or an installer, you don't have to. Nothing in our industry says that this is the standard we set. And I mean, why America?
Well, of course, America is the opposite of what we do here. So we're always chasing just the young people only, typically for an apprenticeship. But in America, as we both know, you're upskilling the existing workforce that pass their probation and they're well into their career, and they're just professionalising that speciality.
Well, I mean, look, I think it needs to be a qualification. I think we're at a level now, and I've been an industry design award judge for many years, and every year when I'm honoured to be invited to judge, and I see the creative talent that we do have out there, but moreover how complicated our open living spaces are now to design and build and create, it just it beggars belief that you can just stumble into that, because it's a huge responsibility.
And we've seen some horror stories in terms of design.
Where dreadful.
The hob's right next to a tall housing unit, or the sink's right next to an electric appliance or whatever.
Shocking. Boxing in boilers that you shouldn't box in.
Ventilation and all that kind
we could be here for days discussing it.
So training. So we're here in Nottingham, and I'm very aware that you have a fantastic training centre, and the courses that you offer are fabulous, and you are synonymous to that factor of kitchen design, principles in kitchen design. How can somebody be better? So tell me, is that course just for someone who's new to the industry, or could the course also be for someone who's fairly experienced and wants to learn more?
Well, I've been delivering this course for 25 years, and one thing I make certain of is that it is current and up to date, because what I was teaching 25 years ago bears no resemblance to what I'm teaching now.
Okay. What's changed since 25 years ago to today?
Oh, well,
what's the fundamental changes?
Everything, open living spaces for a start, compliance, regulations, product, technology, and really this is what we need to be keeping up to. So at the very least, I used to be married to a doctor, my son's a chartered surveyor. Professions like that have got to attain hours of CPD learning every year to make sure that they are completely current and up to date.
Criteria, you understand it, somebody's assessed that and said they're good to go.
Exactly. But because we aren't really considered a profession, we don't have that criteria. We don't have an institute in our industry saying, as a member of this institute, you've got to attain these amount of hours of learning. So, I mean, as I say, my course is 2 days. I'd like it to be a month because I start every course by saying, I can't possibly teach you everything you need to know in 2 days.
Are there two options of the course? Is there an intermediate and a
Well, now I've managed to persuade. I've managed to persuade my son Rob to write and deliver a more advanced course. So, you know, I take them through all the styles and trends and colours, and you know, you might.
This is the Principles of Kitchen Design 2-day course.
Yes, my 2-day course. Okay. You might think, well, you know, that's a bit of an arty-farty part of the process, but it's an invaluable part. Yeah. It is part of the process because, you know, our customers are rising millennials and then Gen Zs after them. I mean, they are current. They know what they're doing. They research everything before they step into us, the professionals or the experts. They know what they're looking for, and you know how embarrassing if we say, well, I've been doing the job for 50 years, and you haven't actually made it your business to keep current. Yeah.
So if I'm someone that's got into a retail showroom, I'm on day one, I've never done kitchen design before, would you advise me coming to see you on my second week after the first week of induction, or waiting 6 months to come and see you?
Either or, actually, because I'll tell you, I have had long-standing experienced people who have come on my course and said, well, I'm not sure you're going to teach me. I've been doing the job for 40 years. Okay. And they leave after 2 days thinking, well, I didn't know that.
Thinking about
whether they admit it or not, I don't know.
So I guess in delivery as a course tutor that you would make the allowances for certain people perhaps that are very new, and that's how you would do it, wouldn't you?
Yes, but also in the, you know, when we stop for coffee or lunch, the beginners then learn an awful lot from the more experienced. So
yes, of course,
you know,
learning from the best.
A perfect learning structure would be to have a beginners, a medium, and advanced course.
Right.
It's hard enough to get people out for 2 days. So
you're doing that in one, but potentially for the future there may be an advanced course.
Exactly.
For someone that's
interestingly
very,
though,
very
what I am finding now, whereas at one time it used to be retailers sending me their staff.
Okay.
Now I'm getting interior designers, house developers.
Yeah.
I've got a gentleman coming on the course next week who was a builder for years, knows everything he needs to know about construction. And so for him, knowing how everything works, where the pipes, the wires and everything else goes, all the services, piece of cake to him.
Yeah, sure.
But when he phoned me up, he said, the trouble is, Ren, I don't know how to deal with a customer, and I don't really know what I'm talking about in design. Yeah. There's something missing.
Yeah. So that's great because he's going to get a different perspective, and potentially he could think about his next development and make it a little bit different against his competition if he comes on the course.
Well, he's now opened his own studio, kitchen studio.
That's the next stage.
Yeah, well, that's what he thought, and he thought, well, how hard can this be?
Yeah, sure.
Actually, he's struggling now.
So what about for those who say, well, you know, times are tough and it's difficult, I stopped doing the advertising, people aren't coming in, I can't afford to pay for training. In your career, has there ever been a time where there was an ability to request funding to come on a training course in that respect?
Well, no, I've got a young girl who's really, really keen to come on the course. She's sort of looking at becoming a kitchen designer, hasn't got the money to pay for the course. Now, I think local funding should be available
from council, local council.
Yes, local councils. I think there are lots of small pots of money floating around, and I think, you know, that would go a huge
really interesting
way.
Because you go onto a council website, you'd be looking for funding. There's different grants for this, different grants for that, different grants for the other. But potentially, if that's the strategy of the government to build more houses, there could be something there to support the industry, couldn't there?
Exactly. So it's not coming.
That objective.
It's not coming directly from central government. But it's about cities investing locally in expand.
And you'd have to apply for it. If somebody
Yes.
was sitting on £1 million, perhaps they would say no. But if somebody wanted to genuinely invest in their staff and they're looking for that support because they are having challenging times, then maybe that could be applied for.
Exactly. Well, an example is CRTB levy payers. I've had over the years several people on the course who have been able to get a grant to come on the course. Now, obviously, it has to be monitored and audited, and I would have to fill in a form and take knowledge that they have actually attended the course. So that could be one way we could really encourage and help, because I know you and I have had this conversation a lot of times, Simon. A business should never see training and education as a cost to your business. It's an investment.
It's an investment. What about manufacturers? So if somebody was saying, I'm putting my flag in the sand, I'm going to sell this manufacturer's kitchen furniture only, this manufacturer's appliances, could make an agreed contract. Could manufacturers perhaps come to the table with potential investment and training as well?
And yes, and so they should.
And do that. Have they done so in the time in the career that you've had?
Well, I've had. I tell you who have invested in training that I've delivered has been the Builders Merchants Federation over the years. I mean, again, I've been working with them for 20 years, and Builders Merchants, as we know, have opened their sort of more boutique studios. I mean, one builders merchant in particular, I think they sent me about 40 delegates to train.
So the Builders Merchant Federation is a conduit to get more people to come to the courses. I'm looking at, is there a situation where in most cases a manufacturer will say, well, I'm not going to spend money on training for that individual because they could buy anybody's kitchens or appliances or sinks or taps or worktops. But if there was some kind of agreement where there was an agreement for a specified amount of time to only sell and display certain products, could that be a potential conversation?
Yeah, well, and look, you know, having worked with a manufacturer for years, that manufacturers do train their retailers,
on the
but it's very product specific.
That's it.
And I
Could
think
that break the mold? If some manufacturer was perhaps watching and thought, do you know what, that's actually quite a good idea, maybe we could break the mold.
Well, I've never understood why more manufacturers don't invest in actual design training.
I mean, it could be a subsidy. It couldn't be, the manufacturer pays the whole thing. But let's say the retailer paid 50%, the manufacturer 50%.
Exactly.
Because both parties would look to gain from that situation, wouldn't they?
Exactly. My biggest fear is that, I'm nearly 160 now.
Right.
That when I stop delivering my course and it falls off the shelf, who actually out there is doing it? I know it's only a short course, but at least even in 2 days, I can demonstrate to somebody what skills they need to make them a professional too.
Well, I'm sure just having
to go out and learn more.
Yeah, I'm sure just having this conversation today is going to create some awareness for those that are going to watch this special episode. And so, that's really good. We had a great chat about apprentices, a great chat about training, and all things in between actually. But just before we finish, and I always ask this question, is can you relay to the camera or to me, whichever you prefer, an amusing story that from your career you've seen or witnessed or learned that we could all learn from ourselves? Yeah.
Does it have to be kitchen related?
It can be anything industry loosely related that we could learn from.
Okay. Well, I was invited really some years ago when I first started lecturing. I'm embarrassed to say, but anyway, I'm going to. So I was invited to deliver a lecture on kitchen showrooms. That's because I was designing kitchen showrooms for a manufacturer.
Design a kitchen showroom,
yeah, absolutely, up and down the country.
Yeah.
Anyway, the whole School of Architecture invited me to deliver this lecture, and it was terrifying because I know people won't believe this, but I am inherently very shy. So for me to stand in a formal lecture theatre where they are all up in front of you.
Oh,
You're
so
in this
talking
little
more than
pit
100
down there.
people we're talking.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, because it was the School of Architecture, all these architectural students, nervous as anything. Anyway, I got going, and there was no heckling or anything. Went really well, and then we stopped for a comfort break, and I popped into the ladies, and I looked at my blouse, and it was inside out. I could not believe that I had just delivered a lecture in a formal university with my blouse
You went for
inside
your
out.
comfort break just before going on.
Yes, so
They all do, to be fair. That's when you looked in the mirror and thought, oh no, what have I done?
no, this was halfway through.
Oh, this is halfway through?
No, I'd already,
Good grief.
I was
See,
full
that's
into
even
the
worse.
lecture with my blouse inside
What
out.
did you do?
I came back in
Right.
and I said, I can't believe that all of you sat there for an hour and watched me lecture.
Oh, you actually said
with
that?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, I did.
Yeah.
Well, and of course, everybody
So
laughed because
you won the audience over
look,
straight away. by
you have to
saying
own it. When you make a fool of yourself,
Yeah,
there's
brilliant.
no skipping out the door, is there?
So maybe the advice is the learning message. Before you go on, go to the comfort break, as you nicely say, before you go on.
Exactly, and check
Check in the
what
mirror.
you're wearing is
There
the
you go.
right way
Renee
out.
Mascari, thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon.
Thank you. Thank you for watching this special edition of Legends with myself and Renee Mascari. I'm sure and certain you're going to take away something to support your apprenticeship learning journey. We hope that more SMEs and small companies will consider hiring an apprentice, and of course the importance of training. You've heard some great suggestions and solutions today. If you've liked what you've seen today and you're watching on YouTube, you can hit the bell icon to receive further notifications of our films. And we love your comments. Please leave your comments. And we very much look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.